Welcome everybody to this afternoon's conversation. We'll welcome everyone into the webinar as we start also streaming this conversation on PCA's Facebook page as well as the Sacramento Kings Facebook page. So those of you that are joining us via Zoom, if you would like to ask a question, please do so during via the Q&A feature on Zoom. And then those of you that will be joining us via Facebook can ask questions in the comments section of the PCA Facebook page or the Sacramento Kings Facebook page. So want to welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is our second conversation on today, National Girls and Women in Sports Day, as well as our celebration of Black History Month. PCA is doing a series of conversations on these important topics with leaders from around the sports community. We are extremely excited to have Lindsey with us today, assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings and former WNBA player. She will be having a conversation with PCA's Vice President for External Relations, Casey Miller, who also is a former college basketball and professional basketball player overseas. So we'll be talking hoops, but we'll be talking a lot of other issues as well. So thank you everyone that's joining us via Facebook. Please, if you have any questions on Facebook, either via the PCA web page or the Sacramento Kings page, feel free to type them in the comment section and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. And if you're on the Zoom webinar, feel free to use the Q&A function for any questions. And with that, looking forward to the conversation. I'll turn it over to Casey and Lindsey. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just give me 1 second while I make sure that we can go live on the Sacramento Kings Facebook page so we can make sure that all of the Kings fans can see this as well. So just give me 1 second. All right. Gotta love technology these days, and it allows us to reach a lot of people. But thank you for your patience. And Lindsey, thank you so much again for making time for PCA on a game day. I know you guys play the Boston Celtics tonight, and the schedule's a little bit weird given COVID times, and we're thankful that it's allowed you to spend some time with PCA today. So first, just to kick it off, again, in honor of National Girls and Women in Sports Day and Black History Month, can you just talk a little bit about how your experience participating in youth, high school, college sports at Duke, in the WNBA, overseas, how has it impacted your character and who you are today?
Again, thanks for having me. I am happy to be here. For me, I've always been a kid with a lot of energy. I was always this athlete, and to be able to play it at an early age, it gives you, especially as a young girl, it gives you a lot of confidence. It gives you a lot of physical strength, and I believe a higher self-esteem. I always, like I said, was this athlete, and I would want to race anyone in the neighborhood, go play any sport, and I was good. I was very good. So it's just been a part of me. It's been who I am. As just a person, as this athlete, and being able to be this strong, not just mentally, but physically strong woman.
Absolutely. I feel like that confidence and that self-esteem is so important, especially for young girls as they're growing up. And when you think about kind of your path to where you are today, did you always know that you wanted to coach in the NBA and work in the NBA, or was that something that happened while you were at Duke or in the WNBA? Talk a little bit about how you kind of came to where you are and when you realized that's what you wanted to do.
This all happened towards the end of my career playing in the WNBA. This wasn't really an opportunity. I guess I didn't even know it existed as a job, as a career path of coaching in the NBA. I didn't even know if I wanted to even coach. I knew I wanted to stay within sports. I knew I maybe wanted to go back to school and get an MBA
Lindsay, you still there?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Can you see me?
I can't see, but that's okay. We can hear your voice.
Oh God, this technology is killing me. I don't know where I got cut off.
So
What?
you were just saying that you didn't even realize that this was a possibility until later towards the end of your career that you could coach in the in the NBA, and you weren't sure that you wanted to be a coach even.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea that this was a path. I saw a couple women. Nancy Lieberman was someone who always wanted to coach, and I believe she was coaching in then it was the developmental league. Now it's the G League, and then later on Becky Hammond started coaching. So I thought that it could have been a possibility. I just wanted to get in the NBA and see where it would go from there. But now that I'm in it, it's great. They're opening more doors and opportunities for us. And hopefully, there are more young girls that are thinking about having a career in the NBA.
Absolutely. And you were the first female Black NBA scout when you started at Philadelphia and then transitioned, of course, into player development. And now one of a handful of current, female assistant coaches. Can you talk about how we can provide more women and people of color opportunities in coaching and high level administrative roles in sports?
Well, if I start first, like with the NBA, and I think with anything, a lot of people hire people they know, and you want to try to get in. We always say it's kind of a boys club because it is around here. A lot of these players who later turn to coaches, they get their first job by a coach who's coached them, right? Or a GM who they played under. So it's trying to infiltrate that and try to develop relationships. So when I was a player, that's all that I did. I got to know coaches. I got to know people in front offices and different organizations, people in the league office. I did the best that I can to kind of let them know that I'm there, because the truth is, how can they hire you if they don't know that you really exist if you're there? So even being a former player, it was difficult to kind of get involved with that. So I tell people to meet as many people as they can. If you are an athlete and you're playing, especially when you go to high school, if you get to college and go to that higher level, people want to know who you are and meet you while you were playing. So take that opportunity to meet people. And when you get a chance to meet someone who's doing something that you're interested in, that you may want to do, see what their path was. See how they got there. What did they do? Everyone's path is different. Sometimes people take the long road, some can go straight there. So just talk to people and ask. But I think that's the hardest thing, is really getting in to meet who these people are and find them. I think that's the most difficult part of it.
Yeah, and I think as more women start working in the NBA and in places where it's a majority of men, that more women are going to be able to make those connections with those people and just network that way. So I think that's great advice. And then you're in your third season in the NBA. Obviously worked for the 76ers, and now you're with the Sacramento Kings. Can you talk about maybe your first season and the experience, if it was welcoming, and has anything shifted in just the 3 short years where more and more females are starting to be, a little bit more involved in the NBA? What's that experience been like?
Well, when I first came in, I was in the front office. So you're scouting, and part of that job is, I mean, I can tell you this: you go to different arenas, whether it's college or professionally. I did mostly pro personnel, so I was watching professional games, and you go, you get your credentials, you sit, you talk to players, you got to get a lot. It's kind of like you're a little detective, an investigator. You got to get a lot of information, and then you're also watching. So I remember this one time I was sitting here, I believe I was in Miami. I was next to a bunch of other scouts, and we're watching this game. And a couple of these Miami fans are walking up, and they had won the game, and they thought that we were reporters. So he was like, "You guys need to write something great about this game," or whatever. And the guy next to me is like, "We're not reporters, we're scouts." And he goes, "Oh." And he looked at me. He's like, "Well, you're a reporter. You need to write this." Like he just couldn't, he didn't understand. And I looked at him, I was like, "Did he not just tell you who we were?" So it's interesting, because some people just don't, they don't think of something they haven't seen before, right? So there's definitely several times, even when coaching, when I come in, it's like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a coach." "Yeah, but like, what kind of coach?" I've been asked if I was the cheerleading coach before. I have before. And then I say, "No, I'm the coach, an assistant coach, and then it comes to, well, how did you get that? And sometimes you kind of look at them and it's like, should I go down all of my credentials to tell you why I have the experience to do it? But then I also take it as a chance to an opportunity to teach so they can learn because they've never seen it before. Because the truth is, when I take those moments, they love it. People are like, wow, I've never met a female who was a coach or who was a scout. And I feel very blessed and lucky that my experience in the NBA has been very welcoming. I've had worked for two organizations that have been great. My first was in Philadelphia with the 76ers, and my boss was amazing. I remember before my first day, he said to me, you know, we hired you for a reason. When it's time to talk about players, to talk about opportunities, what we're looking at, I need you to speak up. I want to hear what you have to say. You have a different experience than all of them, and that's why you're here. So having that support and knowing, you know what, he brought me here for this reason, and it's okay to kind of speak out and say it and do it. He gave me a lot of confidence, and I've taken that into coaching and wherever I'm going to go from there.
Absolutely. And I think your point that you made too about when somebody makes a comment that is just ignorant is taking the opportunity to call people in versus call people out. And we talk about that in our Sports Can Battle Racism workshop that we're leading with coaches, youth and high school coaches around the country, as let's use this as an opportunity to call people in, to educate, to have the conversation, because maybe somebody hasn't seen it before. And so I loved that point of, and it's great to hear that when you do have that conversation, people are like, wow, and really inspired and want to hear your story. So I think that's fantastic. And just to hear that you had such an amazing leader like that at the 76ers who wants you to speak up is I know very impactful. We had a couple questions that came in through the Facebook page on the Kings page. And I want to welcome all the Sacramento Kings fans who are tuning in if you're on there. So one that came in was, what do you think are the main challenges in achieving a more gender diverse environment in the NBA? So we've obviously made some progress, but what do you think are the main challenges?
I think I kind of, like I said before, if they don't know that you exist, how are they going to hire you? It's trying to find better opportunities to get in front of people. You see, I went to an NBA summer league after I retired, and I spent, you know, the whole 2 weeks there. I don't think I watched a single game. I was in the stands, just meeting people, talking to people, introducing myself. You know, as a former player, I was able to have an access to certain parts of the arena, which not everyone does. And I was able to get there. So I think the biggest thing is being able to find those ways of getting in front, talk to who you know and see who they know. Because the moment I knew and met one person, they took me and introduced me to 5 other people, who then they took me to introduce me to 10 other people. So sometimes it's just finding that one person who's going to take a chance with you to just kind of put you out there. And I, again, was very lucky to meet the right people to put me in front of the, you know, people that are willing to kind of help. Now, there's a lot of people who say, this is great, let's get more women. But then it says another thing when you're actually willing to take action and do it. Right. And, you know, and looking at these teams, like when you look at coaches, I think there's about 7 or 8 women that are coaching in the NBA. Still a long way to go, right? And for some of these teams, they actively look for you. Like, I didn't just happen, you know, to show up in Sacramento. I got a phone call coming, you know, recruiting me and bringing me there. So right. I think it says a lot for teams that are actively looking for diversity.
Being intentional about doing that.
Being intentional. Absolutely.
Well, that's a great question. And another one that came in, and I actually want to ask one question before I get to this one, which is, when was the first time that you had a female coach, whether that was in youth, high school, college? Do you remember your first female coach?
My first female coach, the one that sticks out in my head, was my 7th grade basketball coach, and Coach Lessinger. I will never forget her because I was a track star. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like FloJo. That was it. No other sports. That's what I wanted to do. And in 7th grade, you could play volleyball, basketball, or run track. So I was just ready for track. She talked me into playing volleyball. It was too slow for me. I didn't want to do it. And then she's like, well, there's basketball. I fought her on it. I was like, I don't want to play basketball. Like, I don't want to do it. I just want to run track. And she kind of pushed me into it, said, no, you'll be great. She pushed me into it. And I still thank her to this day because that changed everything. It was like, I kind of like this sport. So then it became kind of my main focus. But she was the first uh, female coach that I had had. Before that, I did gymnastics. I did some soccer, I did track, and they were all male coaches that I had leading up to that.
Well, thank goodness for her, because then you turned out to be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft. So it worked out pretty well. And so that kind of leads into the question that came in from the Facebook page, which was, how do we get more women and moms to coach in the youth levels so that our daughters can see more women coaches as they grow up through the sport? And just if you have any thoughts, kind of in that youth sports space, how can we get more women coaching teams?
I feel that as women, we tend to question ourselves a little bit more than men. Like, some of these dads that go out and coach think they know the sport because they've been watching it their whole life. They've been watching it, they're fans, they've been watching it, and they could be great coaches. Why can't a mom do it, right? Why can't a mom just go out there? They love the sport, they've watched it and do it. We have to make these efforts and saying that, hey, I want to be that coach. Everyone tends to look for the dad to do it, but we just have to do it. Your kid is playing another sport. I mean, don't just go out there and you don't know what you're talking about. Take some time to learn and learn what's, kind of good at that age to kind of teach them. But we just have to do that. Like, I don't have any kids right now. And if I did, I'd love to coach the youth, only to a certain age, only until they could actually start really talking back at me, then I would probably stop. But I just think we just need to go out there and do it. And not just that, like, there's a lot of former, athletes from high school, right? From college, that we have to find all of these, but they love the game. Like, why not go out and teach young kids?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. Find the next generation and inspire those to make sure that they're coaching, specifically females coaching in girls sports,
Mhm.
I think, and in boys sports, right? It's like
Yeah.
a sport is a sport. And that was actually something I wanted to ask is, in your experience now coaching in the NBA, what are the differences, if any, in men's and women's basketball that you see as a coach?
Um, they throw more alley oops. Um, but other than that, basketball's basketball. We draw up the same plays. There's different terminology, so you're just learning the different terminology, but yet doing the same things. Um, I just tell people it's no different. It's still dealing with people. It's dealing with different personalities, dealing with different age groups, backgrounds. It's the same thing with that. It's just me going into an environment where I'm the only one. That makes it different. That's what makes me coaching in the NBA different, not the basketball, not the actual game planning or strategy. It's just me being different than what everyone is used to.
Right. Yeah, that makes a total sense. And then when you think about, dealing with people, coaching people, motivating different people, have you seen any difference in the way rookies or veterans interact with you as a coach? Have you seen any difference in the way that relationship kind of develops? And I know it's still early on in your career in the NBA, but I guess just, first impressions, these first couple of seasons as a coach, is there a difference?
Well, the vets watch me play. The vets are like my age. Like, there's still people my age playing. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're playing. Some are older than me, and then there's some that are younger. So they've watched me play. So I've known them. Like, I've been part of USA basketball. I've been part of that. So I know a lot of these guys. Some we were at, like, when I was at the 76ers, JJ Redick was there. We were the same year in college. So we knew each other, right? And then the younger ones, some of them do know who you are because they follow and watch sports, but a lot of them think it's really cool to have a woman coach who's can play. Because I'm still young and I still get out there. I don't tell you what to do. I kind of show you.
Love that.
And it's kind of funny because, sometimes they want to challenge me a little bit. They want to challenge me. They're like, check the ball. They want me to guard them, they
Yeah.
want me to do whatever. So I get up there, I take the challenge. But the players are amazing. It's always been this respect. I mean, this like huge amount of respect. Um, and they're smart. They're very smart. And if you know what you're talking about, they're going to have the utmost respect for you.
I love that.
And so that's it's been great.
I love that. And that goes to actually a question. So earlier today, we did another panel. You said you love track and field. We did it with Asia Evans, who was a track and field star in college and then went on to be an Olympic bobsledder. And then Benita Fitzgerald Mosley, who was an Olympic gold medalist in track and field. And a question that came in actually on that panel that I wanted to ask you too was, when this person who wrote it and was growing up, a lot of community youth sports was co-ed, and at least through middle school. And now it seems like almost 90% single sex in sports, in youth sports. And if you have an opinion on what do you think are the pros and cons of girls and boys playing together versus being split, and kind of what are the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, I can say that I actually every summer well, first off, with basketball, it's always been single, right? It's been like I was playing with girls basketball, and then there's boys. Um, every summer I go to Africa with a group with Giants of Africa to do basketball camps. The person who started it is the president of the Toronto Raptors. He's from Nigeria.
Awesome.
And he does these camps. And about 4 years ago, he said, I've been doing nothing but boys camps. I want to start doing girls camps. Can you be the head of that and run that? So I said, great. But I thought it was going to be a separate camp. He's like, no, I want to do it all together. The only thing that's going to be different is, okay, when they play, boys will play, girls will play, but all the drills that we do, they're together. I may coach this one station and it may be boys and girls or separate, and then, they may get a guy, the next coach. So he made it a point to try to put it all together, to show that it's all the same as basketball. And actually that's been pretty good. I think that's been pretty cool. I think that could be great. Obviously when you're young and being able to play and do things together. But when it comes down to like working with a team and growing, especially when it's basketball, you gotta have to stay with your team and grow. But I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially young, doing things together, letting young boys especially see the young women doing the same things and sometimes doing them much better. I may say,
The fundamentals. I'm working on the fundamentals.
No, it's great. It is because there are people that I grew up with who saw me, and it was very normal for for a woman to be great at sports, and they would never think anything less. And then others who've never seen it.
Right.
So I think that does say something.
It's such a great point. Well, I know we only have a few more minutes. I did want to ask you kind of one question specific to these times during a pandemic. And I mentioned before we went live just that a lot of Positive Coaching Alliance's audience are youth and high school coaches and parents. And I was just curious, in your experience working with players during a pandemic, have you noticed any changes in the way that you've needed to motivate or to coach to kind of get through this time period of the pandemic, or changes that you've seen in your players that, maybe your experience could help benefit, high school coaches that are working with their players right now?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, with our guys, they just wanted to play. That was the hardest thing. It's having a long time. When we first shut down, when the league was first shut down, no one knew anything. No one knew when we could play. Then there's this bubble. And everyone, the bubble worked, but everyone's like, God, we don't want to be in a bubble anymore. So it's one of those things. It's like, if you don't want to be in a bubble, let's not get this. Let's be smart about what we're doing outside of this and take care of each other. And that's one thing we say too. We're like, look, we wear masks and we get tested like rapids and PCRs every single day. We're all pretty healthy, but it's like, take care of each other. What do you do? Whatever you do on the outside, you have to protect yourself because you're going to bring that home to all of us, right? So we have a lot of these conversations with just think about what you're doing because, we're coming in here sometimes defenseless with you and we're trusting you. So we kind of talk a lot about that, but we were able to start playing and playing as safe as possible. And I think that has been the best outlet for them, is doing what they love, is playing, getting on the court when we can. We can't even do as much as we want. Sometimes we come early before games to do a lot more shooting or more drills, but we can't even go into the arena until 3 hours before a game now. So that's been restrictive. But being able to play for us has worked out, and they've been focused on that. And when you're at this level, the focus is each game, um, winning the next one, getting on a roll and trying to make the playoffs and winning a championship, right? So hopefully all our guys are still focused on that. I know at the youth level, when you're younger, um, you have different goals. I started when I was in 7th grade. When I started playing basketball, the WNBA just started in Houston. I was in Houston. The Houston Comets won the first 4 championships. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So my goal was, okay, these women played in college. My goal was every day, I just want to get better so I can get recruited. Let me get better so I can get recruited. And then from there, it's, I want to play in college. So I think it's just to keep these kids on focused on whatever their goal is. And sometimes their goal is just to go have fun and,
Yeah.
and figure it out, whatever it is, just have fun with your friends. Sometimes it's going to be with your friends.
Right.
So just focusing on whatever those goals are and whatever's going to motivate them in that way, and keeping it that way.
I love that, and especially short-term goals for the youth and high school level, just because there's so much uncertainty. We don't know what the next week is going to look like. So I think that's a great piece of advice. And then 2 more questions. So what can we expect from the Sacramento Kings for the next, I know we only have, I think, the schedule out until the end of February,
Right.
but anything to share just in terms of the team and progress, the game tonight versus Celtics?
Well, we've been playing well. We had a road trip. We could have won all of them. We lost to Miami by 1 point. That was a tough one, man. That was a tough. But we had a great road trip. We want to continue playing the way we've been playing. Um, we've had great players. Our superstar De'Aaron Fox has definitely shined for us. There's a lot on his shoulders, and he is carrying it well for us. But as a whole, we want to go to the playoffs. Like, I'm just going to say, we haven't been in a long time. The Kings haven't been in a long time, and that is a focus. And we feel that we have it. We feel that we have the talent, and so does 29 other teams in the league, right? But we take it one game at a time. We have the Celtics coming up. They're a great team, and we're going to try to, get that win and move on to the next.
Yep, I think that you guys are just a few wins away from being in 4th place. I feel like the Western Conference is so tight. So
Very tight.
very tight. Well,
Yes.
we are looking forward to watching. And then last question is just, is there any book or podcast or documentary or anything that you've utilized over the last month or so that you would recommend to people tuning in today to help through these times?
In the last month have been crazy, and I would have loved to have had a book or watched a documentary. But there is one thing. There's like this little kind of quote/poem I like. I always first off, tell people don't underestimate the power of positive thinking, because no matter what situation you're in, no matter what someone thinks about you, what they say, or what they want, you can choose which way you're going to go with it with your thoughts, right? You can choose love over fear. Everyone always says that. And it's true, positive over negative. So I always try to be that positive light. And I always try to tell our guys, no matter what, even if you're not getting the playing time that you thought you should get, even if you thought you should have been back in the game or you didn't play well, how are you going to take it? Are you going to come back tomorrow and get better? Or are you just going to just put your head down and just have an attitude, and now you've just like put bad energy everywhere? So there's this poem, I actually have it kind of written down, by Lautus, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but it says, watch your thoughts for they become your words, watch your words for they become your actions, watch your actions for they become your habits, watch your habits for they become your character, watch your character for it becomes your destiny. And so becoming your destiny, it all began with a thought. So no matter what situation, good, bad, ugly, whatever, you can always choose which way you want to go with anything, with just a thought.
I love that. What a perfect way to end. We're recording this, so we're going to write that down and be able to share it out. But we just want to thank you. And it's super inspirational to hear from you, not only, as a female working in the NBA, but a Black female who has broken barriers and been the first in your industry to become a scout in the NBA. And, Positive Coaching Alliance works to make youth and high school sports as inclusive as possible. And we have a variety of initiatives to work on that, one of which is our Sports Can Battle Racism initiative. And so we can share that in the chat and follow up with additional materials, but I hope we can keep in touch, and all of PCA will be cheering for the Kings and for you, no matter where your career takes you. So thank you so much for joining us and look forward to talking soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.